They dropped me off there.
Well, that's.
Oh my gosh.
Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting of the Public Art Commission, March 21st, 2024 meeting to order. I'm gonna make roll calls. Commissioner Gordon,
Present.
Commissioner Taylor,
Present.
Commissioner Miyagi,
Present.
and Sinishan present. All right, do we have any agenda changes, additions, or deletions?
We do not.
Great. Okay, do we have any public comments?
Anyone in the audience wishing to speak? There's anyone in the audience wishing to speak to an item not on the agenda?
No raised hands.
Okay.
Great. Okay, I guess the first action item is approval of minutes from February 15, 2020. Or do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call. Commissioner Gordon?
Yes, approve.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Miyagi?
Yes.
And yes for myself. Okay, do we have any city official comments?
You guys are moving. Okay, so I think we're starting with the QT images, is that right?
Oh, yeah.
So you may or may not have noticed on King Plaza, we have some images on the elevator bank there.
Oh.
Of some of the quotes and imagery from Kirti Bassandine's
Oh,
time as the artist in residence.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Excuse me, can I interrupt the screen? Does anybody notice? I just realized that it's a little off. Sorry.
The screen.
Is it?
I'm going to touch it because it might just.
It blinks
Oh,
out,
okay.
so.
Sorry, I
We've
didn't
touched
mean
it
to
before it
interrupt
goes
it.
completely
I was like,
offline.
Am I looking off? Am I doing?
Interesting.
Okay.
Okay, got it.
So it has some of the quotes that are on the fountain.
Microwave close.
How's that? All right. Um, So it has some of the quotes that were around the fountain, but also combined with some of the imagery of the people who participated, their silhouettes, so they're not actually identifiable, but some of the imagery she collected during the workshop she created.
Nice.
And then we have next the utility box call, I believe, which is going swimmingly. So when I checked earlier this afternoon, we already have 46 completed applications in. We have 23 in progress. I would not be surprised if we break 70 by the time we're through. So people are really excited, and that is going to be a pretty fun panel.
That will be fantastic. So there's 20 boxes available.
There are 20 boxes available.
Okay. Great.
It'll be interesting to see what all the panel chooses, and, then we'll see how we want to proceed if we want to think about another round of them in the future. And then the last item, of course, is commissioner recruitment. So Chair Shen did reapply. Yay. We have 10 applicants for the 4 slots. Commissioner Taylor is termed out, unfortunately. So this is officially her last meeting, but she may be asked to stay on until her replacement is found. 10 years of service with the commission. Thank you, Commissioner Taylor.
When you're having fun, right? Yeah.
Thank you so much for your
Thank you
service.
for your service.
And that's it for city official comments.
Thank you very much. Okay, first action item, election of officers. The commission's election of the Public Art Commission chair and vice chair. I'm the outgoing chair, and I'd like to take the opportunity to explain the general duties and responsibilities of the chair. That includes setting the agenda for the monthly meetings, representing the Public Art Commission in relevant public art related functions across the city, sometimes being the conduit to interact with and report to the city council, sometimes being representatives of the Public Art Commission to socialize and respond with the public. Sometimes taking on additional one-off responsibilities or causes, such as, for instance, helping to lobby on the size of the commission as appropriate, observing the responsibilities and authorities given by the commission, and making sure that we're adhering to that, and agenda setting on a monthly basis, and being the support the staff's activities and initiatives, and having ice cream from time to time. So always a fun time. So I'd like to open the floor for nominations for the position of chair. Do we have any nominees? If not, I have one.
I nominate Chair Shen to continue her role as chair.
Oh. Well, thank you very much. I have a nomination. And my nominee is Commissioner Gordon. And I just, I think she has done a fantastic job serving as the vice chair in for multiple terms. And, and I must say, even as a commissioner, I remember being in front of the city council, and when Commissioner Gordon, then vice chair, was representing the Public Art Commission in front of the city council, and her knowledge, her deep knowledge of the public art portfolio, and her level of concern for the cities and the residents care for every piece, the maintenance issues, the accession issues. I just think she would be a wonderful, wonderful chair and will represent the commission well. So I guess the way we're supposed to do this is we're supposed to nominate one commissioner at a time. And then the commissioner is supposed to accept or decline the nomination. So when you nominated me, the question is for me whether or not I am willing to accept the nomination. And I would say, as flattered as I am, I declined the nomination for this time. But I nominate Commissioner Gordon, and I ask if you are willing to accept the nomination.
I accept. Thank you.
Okay, so do we have a motion to close the nomination?
So moved.
Okay, so then we distribute, and we need a second, and I second that. And I guess we need to distribute paper ballot and the name of the nominees. And we write down.
I think since there is only one nominee, it may be a simple yay or nay.
Okay, so, do we do roll call? Or do we?
It's at the chair's discretion. If you
Okay,
prefer
you-
to do it written or verbal.
Okay, you know what? Let's do verbal. Commissioner Gordon?
Yay.
Commissioner Taylor?
I think I'm gonna say yay.
Okay.
Congrats.
Commissioner Miyagi?
A definite yes.
And a very enthusiastic yes by me as well. Okay, so then we have, yay! All right, and then I guess the second position is the vice chair. Would you like to explain the role of the vice chair?
Most of us have on this commission have served as vice chair now, so we know that it's supporting the chair and attending events on behalf of the commission and also spending time setting up the agenda for each meeting. So it's a support role. It's a lot of fun and I hope that I can make a nomination now. for-
Yeah. Nominate away.
Yes, for Commissioner Shen to serve as vice chair. It would be
Okay,
fun to continue partnership.
great. And I willingly accept the nomination.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. I guess, do we have a motion to close the nomination?
Are there any other nominees?
And any other nominations? Bueller? All right, do we have a motion to close nomination?
So moved.
Okay, and
Second.
second, and I guess we do the roll call. Commissioner Gordon?
Yay.
Okay.
Roll call first.
Yeah, well, no, we're just a roll call to approve. Yeah.
Oh.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Miyagi,
Yes.
and I vote for myself. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, super exciting. Okay, next,
I know.
next action item, King Artist Residency.
We have some slides and we had an amazing process for this artist residency. And Ben Miyagi was on that selection panel. It was a really thoughtful panel. I think all the finalists did an amazing job. So we'll just walk through briefly a little history for anyone who may be tuning in out there about the artist residency and our 2024 artist in residence selection process. So this is just a recap. I'm not going to read the slide, but just this is the intent of the artist residency program. The artist will be in residence for a period of time, engaging the public, and hopefully at the conclusion of that residency, there will be an impactful artwork on King Plaza on the topic of their choosing. So we wanted experienced public artists who are from a neighboring county or this county. The intent is that they would be physically in Palo Alto, spending time here, utilizing their studio for that community engagement. So they will be provided with the shared studio space. As I said, they are expected to spend 16 to 20 hours a week focused on the residency, about half of that time in Palo Alto. And of course, this is a very collaborative relationship between staff and the artists in residence, trying to connect them with all the right outlets and whatnot. So the culminating artwork could take multiple forms. So on the right, you see the piece by Reyes Magos. It's been relocated to a different spot on the plaza since Code Art. But there also is a possibility of doing something in a banner format on the facade of the building. And there might be other manifestations that the artwork could take too. So here is our quick process. So we had a call for artists. We had 24 artists submit applications prior to the deadline. We had our first selection panel February 8th, and 4 finalists were selected. And on March 7th, in this very room, the artists gave live presentations of their previous work and a conceptual proposal for their residency. And the intent of that is the focus of their residency, not defining what the final artwork will be. We did have a couple members of the public attend, a member of the public and a member of the HRC who submitted comments. Here you see the panel. It was a really thoughtful, and you can see a great panel, people from public art backgrounds, arts backgrounds, library services, DEI manager for City of Palo Alto, and of course, our public art commissioner, Ben Miyagi, who is very well seasoned in the world of public art. So we asked the panel to evaluate the presentations by the 4 finalists and make a final recommendation to the commission. They were looking at artistic merit, experience with community engagement. And we had a lot of interesting discussions about, because an artist may have had artwork in a public space does not necessarily equate to community engagement in the creation of that work. So there were some really interesting nuances that we got into in those discussions. And a third piece that the panelists were looking for is experience creating public art and or knowledge of materials or creating an environment. So you're looking at the skill set, the nuts and bolts that this person is going to have, you know, a diversity and a skill set and a pliable mind to problem solve. So the panel selected Alma Landeta, who is an artist and an educator. And here is their self-portrait. And they're focused on the LGBTQ community. Doing some initial research, Alma discovered some pretty startling findings about that community here in Palo Alto and has focused much of their artistic career engaging that community, in particular youth. So here is a work sample. It's a mural you may have seen. And this was something that was created based on a lot of community engagement, not only in the creation of the imagery, but also in the painting of the actual mural. Joy is the fuel. So Alma spoke a bit about this place of the dance floor being a place of freedom and joy for much of the queer community. This was an interesting installation that took place at Makla, highlighting moments of safety in queer spaces through a site-specific installation. And so members of the public were asked to weave in their messages in with the physical artwork in the corner. So there were multiple elements to this piece. Here you can see some of that taking place. You can see the messages on the top right there that we're all hanging in. So this artist has also done a lot of collaborative projects with various museums and institutions. So very well versed in stimulating conversation and getting people to engage. In fact, one of the most interesting things during the interview process was that Alma came and started the presentation, not with a slideshow, but with an activity with clipboards and pens and just a quick, I mean, it must have been a 2-minute demo that was really effective. And it got people to really look and see one another in a different way. And it gave everyone, I think, a really interesting insight into Alma's way of working and that they're going to be pretty successful in engaging people. So here, participatory portraits. So people doing self-portraits and or pairing up and drawing one another. This idea of finding your image and finding your reflection, sometimes being a challenge. And so creating up this safe environment where people can reflect in one another and find themselves. So here's some more imagery. Como una casa art installation. So she talks about this as, or I'm sorry, they talk about this as being a installation modeled off of their grandmother's living room. And so the frames you see slowly filled up with imagery and portraits over the course of time. And so that's it for our slides on Alma Landeta. So the panelists in the deliberation, I did pose the question because Alma clearly was the front runner, and then there was an artist who did quite well about whether or not the panel wanted to bring forward the 2024 artist of Alma Landeta and then bring forward the next artist for 2025. And they decided to hold on that recommendation for now. Let's move forward with Alma Landeta for 2024. Let's see how that's proceeding. And then perhaps the commission wants to revisit that conversation in another 6 months and see how they want to proceed with the 2025 artist. So with that, staff is asking for the approval of Alma Landeta as our 2024 artist in residency.
Do we have any questions?
Comment, being on the panel was very interesting how this was done. And Lisa's comment about having to do the drawing and you put your pen on the paper and you didn't lift it. So you drew the person next to you. And there were some really interesting drawings that came up. and trying to do that. It was really, really fun. One of the questions that I had of each of the finalists was, how have you done outdoor public art installations? And because I think that's critical with the experience with our last artist in residence that we had. One had done paper installations outside as part of the micro grants, which, after a week, they were gone. So how do you translate your studio work to something that's outside, that's durable, and that can be withstand the point of time? And that, and I don't think any of the finalists really had any experience with doing an outdoor public art installation. So that was always in the back of my mind about what can be done with that. So, but I think Alma is a great choice. I think with her engagement, with her public engagement, will be just wonderful here in this community. And then one other comment that I'll have about this is that I think the artist in residence is a year program. Is there a
Up to a year.
possibility that that can be extended to 2 years? Because I've seen maybe a year, maybe a little rushed, especially if you want to get some sort of a public art installation out. So, and then it would relieve pressure on staff as well, if it's done every 2 years. I don't know if that's a possibility.
Are you saying that Alma's residency lasts 2 years, or that we have a artist in residence every other year?
Yes,
The
Yes.
latter.
Yeah.
Well, that's something definitely we can pick up in the discussion 6 months from now when we start to think about the next residency. And we know that there's some wiggle room in the timeline because we don't know what kind of form the final artwork might take, what kind of approvals it might take, how long the fabrication. So that's why we say that residency takes up to a year, because we may need to buffer a few
well,
months.
maybe 18 months. It doesn't have to be a strict,
Right.
2 years or 18 months or whatever,
Mhm.
but whatever time it takes for that artist to get
create it.
and get it installed, and then
Mhm.
pick the new artist in residence.
Mhm. Okay.
Ben, that's a good thought, and kind of to add to that, I think one of the challenges that I often see with these types of projects is how will the engagement continue even if the artist is not involved per se. So I'm just wondering, is it Kojo? I forget, the DEI manager.
Yes.
I was curious if they're able to work with us to kind of keep the conversation going. Because these are issues that are important, and it's I think it happens a lot, not only here, but it happens everywhere where we see it all the time in politics, but where, people get caught up in one issue and then all of a sudden there's another issue. So I don't know if there's a way that we can kind of do something, or Rayos, I know he created some really nice educational guides. I mean, things like that. So just a
That's good.
general comment.
That's a great suggestion. Any other comments or suggestions?
Just a quick question, this artist, Alma, they would begin in April, is that correct?
Depends on when we get the contract through.
Okay.
This coming Tuesday, we are having our first intake meeting where we will be discussing all the logistical details, timeline, just the contract process. So we will have more information towards, sort of as the month proceeds, right?
That's great. And then they will have a studio in Coverly, and it seems like spend at least half their time there. Okay, that's really nice. Thank you.
Great. Do we have a motion to approve artist Alma Landetta as the next project artist for the King Artist Residency Program?
I'll move.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Okay, roll call. Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Miyagi,
yes.
and yes for me as well. Okay, next item on the agenda, collection care. Staff is recommending funding in the amount of up to $9,130 for the maintenance and conservation treatment of Confluence by artist Michael Zebo.
Zabo. Homegrown talent from Palo Alto.
Thank you. Vice Chair Jan. I'll take this item today. Yeah, so this is a recurring maintenance item, and you're well familiar with the reasons. Water sculptures, fountains, they demand a lot of upkeep, a lot of maintenance. The sculpture is made of bronze, which adds a level of complexity. So in its time, last time the sculpture was treated in November 2020. So here we are, beginning of 2024. We started the conversation with the artist earlier last year, and we'll show some images of some developments, I guess some changes with the current condition of the sculpture that we wanted to bring to your attention and address with this upcoming treatment. So today we recommend that the Public Art Commission approve the funding in the amount of $9,130 for the maintenance and conservation treatment of the sculptural fountain. This year around, the conservation treatment will be expanded from just a cyclical preventative maintenance, so which includes a detailed inspection of the sculpture, cleaning of the debris, organic growth, chemicals, patina touch-up, application of UV waxing, and also tuning up of the water flow just to make sure there is no splash and any loss in the water. In addition to that, we've been in quite an extensive conversation thread with the artist, with our colleagues in Parks and Open Space, and also with the contractor group who is charged with the ongoing maintenance and just making sure that the levels of the chemicals are added on regular basis and so on. So earlier last year, around November, we noticed that the skin of the concrete basin and the rocks have some sort of at first greenish discoloration. We brought it up to our partners just to make sure that the active, detergent, like necessary chemicals added on a regular basis. In the meantime, that process continued to evolve, and some purple started showing up, which was quite mysterious to us because it was the first sort of occurrence of that nature. So we, of course, reached out to the artist, started doing some research and digging into the cause of this issue. So there was some disbalance in previously added. There was, I guess, the treatment was off schedule, which caused this disbalance of chemicals, which was, of course, later tried to address by the contractor by adding like other, reactive chemicals. But we have the discoloration. It's evident on the skin of the basin, the rocks on the surface of the bronze. So in order to resolve that, we need to work with the contractor and the artist to do sort of a deep descaling and treating of the surfaces to just address the surface growth. So that's why the budget that we requested today seems higher than just for the cyclical maintenance. But in our repeated conversations with the teams, and now we have a contractor who actually specializes in maintenance of water fountains. The artist has previously worked with that particular contract, so he's confident that the project will be successful and, you know, they're in the best hands. We're looking to get on with the project as early as in beginning of April. So the teams will be on site for about a week, first to clean the fountains and then address all the purple cyanurate sort of like surface effect. And I welcome questions or comments.
I have a question. So it sounds like this purple development, like I guess it's probably some type of organism that is developed due to chemical misbalance.
Right.
And you mentioned that it was because the treatment was delayed, or did I hear that correctly? And that gave this organism
Yes.
time to develop.
So I'm not a scientist or chemist, so you know, I'm afraid to speculate about the exact reasons what really caused the discoloration. You know, in order to resolve the issue, what needs to happen this time is we're not just going to be cleaning the surfaces, but we also need to have a deep cleaning of the tank vault. Make sure that the bacteria is no longer there, the surface of the vault is clean, and also refill the tank with clean, non-contaminated, you know, water. So this process will not happen again. So we just need to completely start from scratch, you know, just clean up the surface and make sure that the water in the tank is appropriate.
So my question is this, because it looks like there are organisms involved that gets developed over a period of time. This is a one-time ask. Do we need to put in, because it's water, you know, it's a constant development, right? This is an environmental issue. Do we need to be on some type of cleaning program essentially?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Thank you for bringing this up. That's why we wanted to make sure that we have all the parties at the table. We have the artists who really understand sort of like the biome of the, you know, the water sculpture. We now have a contractor specializing in maintaining and treating water sculptures, and we have just, you know, city general contractors. So the artist and the water specialist contractor are in conversation. They're going to develop, you know, a protocol that will be appropriate for that continuous maintenance in the future to prevent that.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple. So the water, is it recycled water?
Yes,
right?
it's
Okay.
purple recycled water, so it
Okay.
circulates.
Okay, so I have two other questions. How much have we spent on the care of this particular piece compared to all the other kind of sculptures similar
Sure.
in nature? That's my first question. And then the second thing, this is very outfield, but I'm going to say it anyways. Have we ever considered just asking the artist or working with someone to just recreate a new base or recreate a new, is that even a thought or idea, or even, I know it is a water sculpture, but even not doing it as a water sculpture? I don't want to like open up a can of worms,
Sure.
but I'm just thinking like long term, do we have thoughts and comments about that? Because it is an issue that we've dealt with, right?
Yeah.
For a while, so.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I don't have an exact number off the top of my head, and I'm just afraid to like, you know, disinform you. To be fair, you know, fountain, it's really you can't compare sort of like the amount of dollars, you know, you spend on a static, you know, say stainless steel, you know, powder coated sculpture, right? And, you know, a water sculpture, you know, fountain, because the needs are completely different, the environments are very different, and the maintenance of fountains just in general is costly, you know. So when the city was considering, water feature for that location, it was taken into consideration, that fountain actually, it's one of the, I guess, California Avenue identity sort of like, flag, like mark features, we always see people, families, hanging out there, playing chess, just reading books. So, yeah, it's just it's a feature of Palo Alto. To address your second question, I think just going like with this drastic sort of approach, replacing the basement, that would be a much higher dollar sticker in that. I don't think there is a need for it because it's really just a surface treatment. Think of it as like descaling a cattle, I think we're going to be more successful just with the proposed treatment.
I have a question. I think Nia brings up a good point. When we are contemplating and reviewing these proposals, I understand that water is part of the element, but does it ever come up in conversation that this is a water sculpture, however, plan A, the water is going really well, plan B, what happens if the pumps, the irrigation, all that is not going well? Can it stand alone as a non-water feature?
So I will just back up and give you a little background where the fountain came from. There was an old bird bath style fountain out on the point there. And there was originally a proposal to have an artwork that was going to be a water feature. And then there wasn't enough funding and it was not going to be a water feature. And the community turned up in droves saying how important this was, that they like the sound of the water. Council went back and said, okay, Public Art Commission, go back out. It needs to be a fountain and it needs to be a splashy sound. And so this was something that was very, very important to the community. I suspect it still is, given that there's still appetite to, for instance, rehabilitate the fountain at Lytton as well. Like, people are pretty attached to the fountains. So they are expensive. That is something that gets rolled into the budget, and periodically there are parts and mechanicals and things that need to be cleaned.
Thank you.
I have a question, a comment. One, with water features, 20% is what you see, 80% is what you don't. That's part of the problem with it. So the cost of maintenance is so much higher because you don't see the part that's being maintained, you don't really see. Now I noticed that purple color was at the top. Is that the water level get up that high? How did that happen? I'm trying to figure out how that happened.
Excuse me, thank you. Perhaps, the splash, depends on like which way the wind is blowing and how, the walls, the surface of the fountain like affected, because we were looking at that, like some areas of the bronze sort of surface, some areas are affected and some are not, so, yeah.
Yeah, because that rock, I mean, it's really high up
But
on that.
really, that's the splash
Okay,
line,
and then the green
It's,
part,
we think it's like, it's not directly where the water hits, but it's like, it's the evaporation.
yeah, I can see where
area,
that one
And
comes
that's
down.
where the color is most pronounced. It's like where the water is evaporating,
And so the green part also is the part that is that water as well, the causes that?
There's no ponding, so it's not meant to ever have a pool of
Okay.
water in it. It all drains pretty immediately. As Nadia said, it's all sort of, it's the splash zone. And also when it's windy there, sometimes, for instance, the photo on the right, you can see how much water is just on the lip there. And sometimes kids get in there and splash around too. So
Well, and it's pretty close to the train station, the California Avenue train station. And the trains eventually become electric, so hopefully that will also help with the environmental part of that. The diesel smoke and that sort of stuff. And does, heavy rain and anything like that affect, I know last March we had all that rain. Does that affect the fountain at all or?
Not that we noticed.
Okay, all right.
Thank God it's not like acid rains, right? Palo Alto.
Are there other potential, like, maybe in the next year that you think could be like issues that come up? Because I'm wondering if does it even make sense to think about like expanding, I know we're talking about this right now, but like enhancing the amount, the monetary amount and the restoration, and getting like killing, to use expression, two birds with the one stone, but, I don't
Well,
know.
yeah,
How do you feel
so
about
thank
that?
you. Bright Hugh, who is the city's general contractor for just servicing I guess like parks, open spaces and water features. I guess at some point they realized that they need to bring really like an expert, because taking care of fountains is just it takes a lot of knowledge, experience and expertise. So the sub who's going to be assisting the artist Mike Zabo on this treatment is that particular water specialist. And so the conversation on for the future maintenance will be happening with that expert on the maintenance of water fountains. So my hope is that it won't happen again.
Thank you very much for the thoughtful discussion. If we don't have any more comments or questions, do I have a motion to fund in the amount of up to $9,130 for the maintenance and conservation treatment of confluence?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second,
All right, roll call. Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Miyagi,
yes.
and yes for me as well. All right, next action item, Copperly mural.
We have some slides to share with you this evening. So this project, we're moving on a fast track. You all just approved the funds for this project last month. We reached out to our pre-qualified pool of artists. We'll walk you through our process here a little bit. And we have a final artist to recommend to you. So as a quick refresher, this is the area we're looking at Cubberley. We budgeted $12,000 for the project, which was approved just last month. Those boxes indicate areas where there might be mural elements. It could potentially expand onto the ground plane. We really leave it up to the artist and it's sort of how the community meetings go. We do require that the artist will visit Cubberley and have at least one community meeting to gather feedback from stakeholders to help inform the mural design. And we are hoping to get this painted in June 2024, which was really amazing. We had some excellent representation from various groups and nonprofits affiliated with Cubberley. We had Richard Hoffman, who's an artist we've worked with in the past. Jennifer Lee, who you may remember when we did Cubberley Stock, and Martha Sakalario was selected to do the temporary project at Cubberley. Jennifer Lee was the partner artist in that and collaborates frequently with spoken word, written word too. Tracy McLeod, who you all have maybe have met before, who's the center director at Avenidas. Most of the Avenidas operations have moved away from Cubberley, but she mentioned she's very much still attached to it and they still have some group of Avenidas meeting there. And then Commissioner Shen was part of that too. So we had Imagination Lab, Neha, who's city staff, who is there at the Cubberley Community Center, Wei Chen from the Acme Education Group there. And so it was a really thoughtful, wonderful panel. So we utilized the qualified muralist roster, reached out to artists in just neighboring counties because we wanted to make sure we had somebody who was going to be comfortable coming to the site, have a sense of the peninsula and Palo Alto as well. So we had 39 artists that were reviewed by the panel. So they did their initial online review. 23 applications were advanced to the in-person or to the Zoom meeting. So the panel went through each of those 23 applications a little more closely. And they selected artist Cameron Moberg for the project artist. So the criteria they were looking for was wow factor, which of course means something different to everyone. Artistic merit for me may be very different than it is for everyone else at this table. And that's part of what makes these panels fun and interesting. And also looking at their experience with community engagement, whether it's reflected in their statement and or in the artwork, that it's very site specific, that they can, that it really seems as though they listen to their stakeholders to create something that feels truly place-based. So here's his portrait. He's based in San Francisco. It says his art often has a theme of life, nature, positivity, and spirituality. He's very well experienced painting murals across the US and internationally. And really prides himself on the community engagement and collaborations with municipalities and nonprofits. And here we'll show you some of his artwork. And you'll see in some of those butterfly wings, there are words in there. I believe this is in the town of, there you go, Fowler, Indiana. Thank you. So you'll see Fowler and some other things in there. This is Monon, Indiana, Tampa, Florida. But you can see in all of these, the panel really wanted something that was not going to just blend in, something that was going to be vibrant, lively, really reflect all the various exciting nonprofits and ages that are engaged there and communities that are engaged there. And so this was the ultimate recommendation. And that's the last slide. So if there are any questions.
When will the community engagement piece begin?
Well, we got to get through the approval and then call the artist about his timeline for beginning that and get through a contract, but hopefully within the next few weeks, yes.
I was just gonna make a comment that because we had the pre-selected artist group, so even it was two-phase process where the individual panel members would go through and review and select based on the two criterias, the yay or nay. And then that's how they narrow from the 39 to the 23. And then in the live session, the Zoom meeting session where the full panel got together and review all the artists, we actually went pretty deep to discuss some of the reasons why we pick and supported an artist, and we had lifelines if one of the artists got eliminated early in the process. And I would say that it was wonderful to have this pre-qualified panel because I had previously participated on a mural panel before. And so it was gratifying to see some of these artists' names come up again. And then also recognizing that even if this is not the right opportunity, there may be other walls as we actively support our mural program, other walls where we can have the artists present their work.
His work is certainly vibrant, and I think that's what's needed on that wall or walls. And it looks like he's been diverse geographical as well. So I'm looking forward to what he comes up with and his community engagement.
Okay, if we don't have any more comments or questions, do we have a motion to approve the project artist for a temporary mural to be painted on the site of Cubberley Community Center?
I motion.
Do I have a second?
Yes. Second.
All right, roll call. Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Miyagi,
Yes.
and yes, for me as well. Okay, last action item, downtown murals.
Well, it's funny, you were just speaking of there may be future walls because we found a few. So, did you recall, we put out a call for walls in January, right? Let's see, we have a slide coming up here at some point. Okay, so we launched a call for walls for both Midtown and downtown. Unfortunately, Midtown did not yield anything at this time, but we have 3 applications for downtown. We sent out our muralist consultant to give a quick evaluation and recommendations for what kind of wall prep might be necessary, how viable these walls might be for accommodating a mural. And so now we are coming to you with recommendations for funding for each of these sites. Keep in mind that it doesn't mean it's a done deal. So there's still, it's a 3-way contract. There's a selection panel, design development, and of course the host site has the right of refusal. If they just decide, thank you, but no thank you, that's fine too. So the approval this evening is for the budget so that we may move forward with that process. So we'll begin the artist selection process next month. As I mentioned previously, of course, the property owner has the right of refusal of the final artwork. The agreement is a 5-year agreement between the artist, the property owner, and the city, where the city will fund the mural and maintain the mural for a period of 5 years. The property owner will not alter it or paint over it for that period of time. At the end of 5 years, and the artist knows this, that the property owner may decide to paint over it. They may decide to keep it and assume the maintenance themselves. Or they may come back to the Public Art Commission and inquire if there might be funds available for something new. So June and July, we'll be going through conceptual designs and then bringing those back to the Public Art Commission for approval prior to going through the application process. So some of these we definitely want to run by planning, make sure there aren't any conflicts there. And then we're looking at doing these probably in September, October period of time. We would try to make it work that the mural sites would all be painted about the same time, sort of within the same week. And we also have a number of utility boxes within the downtown corridor. So ideally, we could have all of that happen at the same time in September, early October, and it would really create a lovely event for people to see these things all take shape. So the first location is Mac's Smoke Shop. And we show the box not because we're thinking place mural here and that it has to take a rectangular format. We're doing that because that is how we budget out on a square foot basis. So it may be that an artist uses more negative space and wants to go higher on the wall or further down the wall or further front. So there are lots of different items there, but that is a nice big blank wall. And so the budget for that is 17.5. The next location is Pacific Art League at 668 Ramona Street. We had a temporary mural here. This is the wall that faces Coconuts right across the street. Again, we don't anticipate that it's going to be a straight rectangular mural. It may play with a lot of open space or wrap around the corner or do something fun. So that's something that we would go through design development with the selected artists. The budget for this would be $11,250. And then the other wall that has been offered to us is from All Saints Episcopal Church on Waverly Street. And this is the wall, we're standing in the US Bank parking lot. So it faces that parking lot. You can see the wall from University Avenue too. There's quite a bit of visibility there. If you're standing there on the street, Ethel's Fancy is right across the way, just to orient you. And so the budgeted amount for that is $14,000. So in all this evening, we're asking the commission to approve an amount up to $43,000 for the initiation of the selection process and design development for these 3 sites.
Do we have any questions?
Mac's Smoke Shop, is that going to be that alleyway that's been used for code art?
It's the same, yes.
So would that mean that it gets taken out of the rotation for code art?
You know, people do really interesting things with digitizing murals and having, AR layers, and sometimes there are other installations. So I would never say never. We don't know what might come.
Well, the last installation.
Mhm.
Ask you a little bit about the process. So you have these three great walls, and I know you did a call for walls. Did the property owners come to you for this?
Yes, some of them had expressed a desire before um, for us to do a mural, and the Weekly had a little blurb about our call for walls, and that's where All Saints Episcopal Church saw it, and so their members got together and submitted an application, so we went and met with them as well. So yeah, so they're coming to us, and hopefully that will continue with more momentum, so we get to do some more murals throughout the city. And so we will utilize the pre-qualified pool. It'll be really the same sort of process we went through on Cal Ave.
With these particular projects, do the artists are the artists asked in the RFPs to design like two concepts or develop two concepts, or is it like when you talk about the right of refusal, are there like multiple selections or choices or of concepts that the building owners can look at, or is it just, do you mind sharing?
Each location is given the top two ranked artists that fit what their statement indicated. So then they select one of those two artists, then we work with them on the artist on design development. And then we do show it to the building owner for feedback or any amendments that need to happen before it comes to the Public Art Commission, make sure they're on board with it. But it's a city process. So it's not like a solo commission. So it's always a little bit of a dance, but it's really, the artist is creating something for downtown, not for that business.
I have a question. So the three murals that were painted um on California Avenue, it they ended up having themes that sort of echo one another. Is there going to be a theme or something that we would share with the artists for these three projects?
Well, our public art master plan is certainly the first thing that they would look at. And then we will have a community meeting with the business representatives and downtown stakeholders. And a lot of that will come from them. I think with California Avenue, because the farmers market came up quite a bit, we ended up with a lot of nature themes. And that was certainly something that was reflected in our Cal Ave master plan.
Thank you. Hey, so if we don't have any more questions and comments, do we have a motion to allocate to approve the allocation of funds in the amount of up to 43,000 and initiation of selection process for up to 3 temporary murals on privately owned walls in downtown Palo Alto?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, roll call. Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Miyagi,
Yes.
and yes for me as well. Thank you so much. Let's see, what is the next item? Do we have any commissioner questions, comments, announcements, or future agenda items?
Just curious, the Midtown mural, any update on that one, or does that have to be an agenda item?
Quick update, it's moving. So we'll come back the next meeting with that.
Okay. All right,
You have cards before you on the Coverly Artist Open Studios, which will take place April 13th from 11 to 5. It is such an amazing new cohort of artists, and the artists who have gone into the studios last year, their careers, like they're already evolving and just taking off. And it's just so amazing to see. And there is sort of a broader Coverly community event taking place that day.
Mhm.
So there's more to see than just the artist studios too. So come bring your kids, your families, your aunts, your uncles, your dogs. Come on.
All three of them.
Yeah, so-
All right. On that note, the meeting is adjourned.